This is now showing, displaying the basics of pandemic and how COVID-19 pandemic is different.
Okay.
New question answer. Chat box. This is now showing, displaying the basics of pandemic and how COVID.
Hello. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we can go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
We'll let them come in for some time.
Yeah. Hi, Manjunath. This is Dr. Abdul Khaliq.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Great.
Hi.
So you are at KIMS. KIMS is Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences.
No. It is Karnataka Institute of Medical Sciences.
Karnataka Institute of Medical Sciences. Okay. Where is this place?
This is North Karnataka. North Karnataka.
Okay.
Exactly halfway between Bangalore and Bombay. 420 kilometers that side, 420 kilometers this side.
Okay, great.
Second biggest city in the Karnataka.
Yeah. Not Mysore, huh?
Not Mysore, not Mangalore.
Okay. I was thinking second is Mysore.
No.
Okay. Great.
This is the main one.
Yeah. Is it in some hilly areas?
Not hilly. It is completely open. Bailu Pradesha we say it is.
Okay, great.
So we have some 12 attendees. Now we'll start off.
Yeah, great. Today my slides are slightly more.
Okay, that's fine.
But I will try to finish in 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Manjunath, can you stop showing it, or should I close it from here?
You can close.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Praveen Ramachandra. I am the moderator for this session. Moderator for this session. I am an endocrinologist in Diapelas Sarka Hospital, Bangalore, and I am an alumnus of JNV Hasan, Karnataka. Today topic is very important. We know that Corona, and everybody knows the term of pandemic now. Pandemic, what is Corona pandemic and all. So we want to know what's happening. So throughout the world, what's occurring in other countries, what's occurring in our country, because there was a lockdown for 21 days. Again, it was extended. So why this extension? So all those things, and which model is better? Some countries are doing good, some countries are not doing so good. So what are the epidemiological factors making some country or some state like Kerala is doing better compared to the other countries like Italy or some other hotspot like Mumbai is doing not so good. So what are the epidemiological factors playing in, and what are the insights we have so far because of this epidemiology? We have a lot of data. What are the insights we can derive from this data, and how we can apply it to further flatten the curve and so on. With this, I would like to introduce today's speakers. One is Dr. Manjunath. He is Associate Professor in Karnataka Institute of Medical Science, Hubbali, and he is a JNV Dharwad alumnus. And we have Dr. Abdul Khaliq, is DM endocrinologist and CEO of Ummad Healthcare. He is from Hyderabad, Telangana. With this introduction, I would like to start the session. I would like to invite Dr. Manjunath to speak on the basics of pandemic. So we have to revise that what are the basics of pandemic and how this COVID-19 pandemic is different from previous pandemic which we had. Okay, please Manjunath, go ahead.
Thank you, Ramchandra. It's my great pleasure to speak to my Navodaya brothers and sisters and also others who are watching this one. Thank you very much for giving me this platform. This is okay. This is the first one is about basics of pandemic and how COVID-19 pandemic is different. So First, we'll understand some of the words which we have been there in the news and all. The first, what is pandemic? First of all, so in this, to go to before we go to the pandemic word, before that we need to understand some of the other terms like epidemic. Epidemic is occurrence of the disease in a community or a region of cases of an illness or any specific disease in a particular area. It is more than the expected normal expectancy. For example, now in India we do not have polio. Even one case of polio, even one case of polio is also a epidemic now. So it is mainly what we have to see, that it is more than the expected normal expectancy. Endemic is where the disease will be there in the population for continuously, it will be there. For example, typhoid, every now and then we will be in our OPDs, we see regularly typhoid cases. So typhoid, and even in coastal areas, we see the uh, we see malaria cases. So there it is endemic. So the a particular disease will be there in a population group that is without importation from the outside. The disease shouldn't have come from the outside. So it should be there in that region. That is called as endemic. And other one is sporadic. Sporadic, the cases will be occurring now and then, not regularly, and also it will not be occurring regularly, and it will not be bothering most of the people. So why this term is important? We can see many zoonotic disease. Means zoonotic means the disease which transmit from the animals to the humans. So those diseases are characterized by sporadic transmission to man. Means whenever we come across uh, uh, wildlife, so there is a chance of cases to transmit from those wild animals to the human being. When we see within Karnataka, KFD, Chestnut Forest Disease, is one of the sporadic disease. So there, whenever uh, we go to the jungles in Shumaga district, so there we have this KFD cases are there. Like that, the even uh, this one virus, this is also is supposed to be a sporadic disease. So in that background, this word sporadic is very important to understand, because of the, even though that might have been a sporadic, generally it was occurring, but because of our continuously they were in coming in contact with the wildlife, so there this sporadic case became the next, it became transmitted to the human, then which was become a pandemic. Next, the very important term, that is the pandemic. So this is the epidemic, where we saw the epidemic is in a localized area, but this where the disease occurs more than the expectancy. But pandemic, it occurs very wide area. Actually, in WHO, World Health Organization, it has very geographical distribution of areas. The whole world is divided into some of the regions. India comes under Southeast Asia region. Like that, there are 7 regions are there. So whenever the disease occurrence occur in many regions, that time the WHO it announces it as a pandemic. So pandemic is a disease which crosses all international boundaries and affects a very large number of people. And also there are some characteristic of the disease to be a pandemic. So any disease, each and every disease, it can't be a pandemic. To for a disease to occur as a pandemic, to become a pandemic, first it has to be very, it should be able to infect human very easily, and it cause a disease in humans and spread easily from human to human. So human to human spread is very, very much easy when it is spread by aerosol. When we, because we can't control the curb, the respiration of a man. So when you stop breathing, you are dead. So if a disease is spreading through the yeah, aerosol, that is through the air, which we take, breathe and breathe out, so that will be very much easy to spread. So that is one basic thing. So if we go through the history, so there are so many pandemic have been there. So if we go through this pandemic, so most of them are transmitted by air. You take it bubonic plague, even the bubonic plague is the plague which was due to the involvement of the lymph nodes in the buboes in the but smallpox, Spanish flu, other all type of these are mainly they spread through the aerosol. So only they are very much successful. And so WHO has now it has come up with the term like public health emergency of international concern. So whenever any disease causes very wide area crossing the international boundaries, it announces it as a public health emergency of international concern. So it was enacted in since the International Sanitary Conference in Paris in 1851, when the cholera was a major causing havoc in the Europe, even all over the world that time. Since 2007, WHO has announced so many public health emergency of international concern. That is, in 2009 H1N1 influenza, 2014 polio eradication setback efforts. Because even a single case of polio is it is a setback, and then Ebola, Zika virus, and now the coronavirus. So in this pandemic transmission, so we need to understand how it transmits. For a disease to transmit or become a pandemic, there should be a source, a infection able to spread. That is, the source or reservoir should be there, and how it spreads, modes of transmission, and there should be a susceptible host should be there. Susceptible host is the one who is able to get infected by the agent. Agent here is coronavirus, so which everybody knows about it. So it is a part of the coronavirus family, uh, as a SARS virus. It is a novel coronavirus. Transmission of coronavirus can occur by respiratory secretion. So this is how transmission cycle began in Wuhan. So primary host is the bat. So after consuming it as a food, it contaminated bat was eaten by the people. Then from there it spread to the other human host. From there, human to human transmission. So agent, so and it has a range. Incubation period is the one where after entering of the virus into the body, there is some uh, time is required to show the symptoms like fever or fatigue, whatever it is. So before that, you will not be knowing that you are affected by that. So that period is incubation period. From the time it enters into your body, and then you are showing or manifesting the signs and symptoms, 2 to 4 days. That is. So it has the signs and symptoms: fever, coughing, shortness of breath, pneumonia, vomiting. Even it also not only the respiratory symptoms, it also has the gastrointestinal symptoms also, vomiting and diarrhea. So next, mode of transmission. So it causes through droplet infection, and fomites are the one like your fingers, your keychain, or your mobile. Fomite is an inanimate objects, and airborne transmission is possible only in specific circumstances. But in so many media, it is shown like airborne transmission is there. But airborne transmission is there only in specific conditions like intubation, when anesthetist is intubating, when they are putting pipe into the air pipe. So that is intubation or bronchoscopy, open sectioning. So these are the aerosol creating procedures. There only it is more airborne transmission is there. And fecal transmission till now and it is not that much evidence is there. Vertical transmission, it is from the mother to the fetus, from pregnant woman to the her offspring? No. Through the blood transfusion also it is not yet reported. So coronavirus, so it is transmitted as we in previous slide as I shown, it is by droplet. Droplet is the one means the size of the molecule is more than 5 micrometer and it can't travel more than 1 meter. Aerosol is a very small size, less than the 5 micrometer, and it can travel more than 1 meter, and by contact also it spreads. So the difference in droplet and aerosol is that aerosol is it is not necessary for a person to be there to transmit the disease to the person. Once he coughs and he goes out, but after he gone also the pathogen will be there in the air to infect the other person who comes in, but not in the droplet. So sick person coughing on your face, so it can go into the eyes, nose, mouth. So this can survive on most of the like aerosols in 3 hours. On plastic, it can survive 72 hours. Stainless steel 72 hours. Copper 4 hours. Cardboard 24 hours. Surgical mask material 7 days. So this one, this surgical mask, this survives there in that 7 days. As we can see that now many people are using this mask, but it is not been properly disposed. Once you use it 1 or 2 days, after that either it should be burnt or it should be properly disposed. 70 and it can be inactivated by 70 degree and household bleach and 70% ethanol is viruses. uh, it can be uh, disinfected within 5 minutes. So the last one is the susceptible host. That is in now as it is a new virus, everyone is in susceptible to this. Susceptible means because the everyone, no one has immunity against this, so it can infect anyone. And we should know this coronavirus difference between coronavirus, cold, and flu. So we'll go to next. Similarity between COVID-19 and influenza, both are similar disease presentation, both involve the respiratory symptoms, and both can be transmitted by contact, droplets, and fomites. But and COVID differences is that COVID-19 does not transmit as efficiently as influenza. Uh, COVID-19 uh, COVID-19 it does not it is only by droplet it transmit, whereas the SARS influenza it can transmit aerosol, so it can easily transmit for more people. So influenza spread faster than the COVID-19. And in influenza, children are more important drivers of influenza virus, but whereas in COVID-19, it is a vice versa. Here it is a alerts. And also in community transmission was not there. Initially, there was no community transmission, means there in the community there was not transmission of the virus, but influenza being a aerosol, the community transmission was very high. So we can't do anything with the containment of the SARS virus. And the comparison of mortality and transmissibility of this human infection. Here we can see that COVID-19 transmissibility is 2, that reproduction rate, and severe case fatality rate is 3. Means if there are 100 people are infected, 3 people can die. Whereas SARS it was 9, and MERS, that is the camel flu, that was 36, means 100 in 100 people they used to kill, it used to kill 36 people. So when we see this, so you can see that more as the case fatalities increases, it becomes very difficult for it to sustain in the community. When there are no as soon as it infect a person, if he dies, there will be no other person to transmit to the others. So the more the case fatality, it will not be a good, it is not good for the survivability of the virus. So being the severity is less here, so it can, because 80% of the people will not have any symptoms. So they are there to transmit the virus to the others. And COVID-19 causes more severe disease than seasonal influenza, because here there is no one has the immunity. Mortality rate for COVID-19 is more than the seasonal influenza. For COVID-19, it is between 2 to 3%. For seasonal influenza, mortality is less than 0.1%. We have vaccines for and therapeutics for the seasonal flu, Tamiflu and all. Particular treatment is there for the influenza, but for the COVID, we do not have anything. No vaccines, no specific treatment as of now. So we do not talk about containment for seasonal flu because it is not possible, because we can't stop the people to breathe. But here in COVID, it is contact we can do with COVID-19. So these are the summarizing the similarities and differences between the two. Okay, thank you. So this is how we have to wash our hands. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Dr. Manjunath. It's already from probably January 31st is when first case detected in India. And so already 2 months, we can say, entire February, entire March, the coronavirus has spread across India, and the counts keep increasing. And China started in December 2019, like that. So there's quite some time we have spent around the coronavirus pandemic, and there's a lot of data we have now. So I would like to invite Dr. Abdul Khaliq to tell these insights from demographic data, and how we can apply to the society, and what modification in our epidemiological intervention we can do, so that we can tweak the curve or flatten the curve. Please, Dr. Abdul.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. Thanks, Praveen, as well as JNV, for giving me one more opportunity to discuss my insights about the COVID disease. So, yeah. Praveen, are you able to see the screen? Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, I can see the screen. We can make it complete.
Yeah.
This,
Right. Taking whatever the data has come till now and giving some of the insights that we got from the data, I'm trying to see this one from 2 points. One is how we can use this data from a personal point of view. The second thing is how we can use this data from a society point of view. Sorry, this got hanged. Yes, as Dr. Manjunath has said, this COVID-19 disease or the infection because of the coronavirus, if any person gets, 80% of us will have the mild disease with flu-like symptoms, with headache, body pains, fever, and sometimes some dry cough, and then we get better. Around 17% may have some severe infection, wherein they may require admission into the hospital, taking care of them, and around 3% of them will have mortality. To be precise, the WHO data says that 3.4% is what is the mortality. So it's not like like the disease which is going to kill each and every one. If it infects around 100 people, around 3 to 4% of them are going to die. Rest all are likely to improve by this disease. So slightly going into the pathophysiology, because a significant amount of doctors are also there in this webinar. As we know, the main cause of disease, of the death or severity in the people is because of a condition which is called as ARDS, that is acute respiratory distress syndrome. What exactly it is? In acute respiratory distress syndrome, in the lungs, wherein the gas exchange takes place, the place which is called as the alveoli, wherein the gas will be exchanged from within the lung to our blood vessels, there will be presence of significant amount of the fluid as well as significant amount of cells which are called as immune cells. They will be destroying this epithelium and will hamper the gas exchange, leading to low oxygenation and death of the people. So this is the primary pathophysiology that occurs, due to which most of the deaths occur in the people who are having severe COVID disease. So in a way, when they have seen into the cause of the death, the primary pathogenesis is because of two things. One is the virus directly destroying the epithelium or the lining of the lungs. Second thing is our immune system, which is going aggressively and while in the act of killing the virus or the cells which are having the virus, it is also killing significant amount of the epithelial or the lining cover. So it is seen that rather than the virus directly causing this one, it is an over enthusiastic or over reaction of our immune system, leading to cytokine storm and destroying our immune system. As shown over here, which I was discussing, the immune system will be quite aggressive, producing so many cytokines, causing the damage. Now coming to the data and trying to see from an individual point of view, this is the data from the United States of America, wherein one month of whole cases were seen, and in severe cases they try to analyze, which is on the web. They have said that most of the people, if you see, who got admitted into the hospital, around 89% of them had some or the other underlying condition. Almost 90% of them had some or the other underlying condition. As we go higher, as the age increases, the people who are having some or the other underlying conditions is much higher. So the people who are having severe outcome are the people who are having some or the other underlying conditions. What are these? They have seen that the two common things are, one is the hypertension close to 50%, obesity close to 50%, diabetes, which may be around 10 to 28%. Some patients may have lung disease because of smoking or asthma, and people who have cardiac diseases. These are the common conditions. Apart from that one, other conditions are also there, but the common conditions what we see is hypertension, diabetes, chronic lung disease, coronary artery disease, and most important thing is obesity. All these people who are having this thing are likely to have severe outcome, as shown in this picture. So if you see what is common in these people, as well as it is seen that the poor prognosis is seen in the people who are having elderly. So if you try to see what are the common features which are leading to such type of thing, and understanding what actually is causing the cytokine storm and aggressive immune system, we see that in the mild cases, the immune system will react in an effective way. But whereas in the severe cases, as well as in the severe case, in the cases wherein the death and multi-organ failure occurring, there is a condition which we call it as a cytokine storm. That means the chemicals that are released by our immune system will come as a storm and they will damage these cells. And this cytokine storm is mainly facilitated by small immune cells, which are called as the macrophages. If you see what are the sources of macrophages, generally macrophages can be there in some internal organs like a spleen and lymph nodes. But here in COVID-19, it is seen that the cytokine storm or the macrophages is not primarily from these cells, but it is coming from visceral adipose tissue. As shown in this picture, there is a lot of cytokine storm when compared to uninfected individual. So here one cells that I was speaking about is the macrophages. If you see what are the sources of macrophages, these macrophages are predominantly present in the fat, particularly the fat which is present within the body, which we call it as a visceral fat. So if you see a normal person, these are the type of macrophages which are green macrophages, which are a good macrophages, but the red macrophages or M1 macrophages are present in abundant in the people who have significant amount of visceral fat. What is this visceral fat? Visceral fat is nothing but the fat that is present within the abdomen, covering the organs. So one simple test to say that a person is having a higher visceral fat is to look at the waist level. If the waist level is more than the height, that means there is significant visceral fat is there. So whenever there is significant visceral fat, it harbors so many of macrophages, and these macrophages will send so many what you say called cytokines, which is leading to inappropriate and high immune reaction, leading to deaths in the patients of ARDS. Coming to the other thing, the elders, if you see in the elders, when we see the intestines of the elders versus the young, it is seen that in the elders, there is a condition which we call it as a dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is nothing but the bacteria that are present in the intestines of the elder people are not that great, so the immune system is not actually very goodly trained. So whenever there are good amount of bacteria in our intestines, the immune system will be appropriately trained and will be reacting appropriately. So these are a few insights from the data that I have shown. So how to get a good microbiome? In our previous thing, in our immune boosting, we discussed that we have to avoid oils, we have to avoid all the packaged foods, and we have to eat as much as possible the natural type of foods, particularly the smoothies or something like that. The second data point that I want to say is there is high amount of mortality, particularly in the healthcare professionals who are getting this COVID-19 infection. The reason for that one is the amount of virus that is entering into the body or the lungs of the healthcare professionals is high because they spend with the patient for a longer durations, or they do the procedures wherein they get a higher amount of the aerosols inspired into their lungs. So as shown over here, if they are having low dose of infection, the body will react in a very good way. If it is having a high dose of infection is there will be inefficient clearance, so the disease can be large. So what is not desirable is if a person is symptomatic, that is, if the patient is having fever, etc., such type of symptoms, the amount of the virus that the patient is producing will be higher when compared to the patients who will be asymptomatic. So what can we do so that if at all the virus comes to us, it comes in a smaller quantity? The best thing to do to that one is always wearing a mask whenever we are going out. So when even the patient as well as the general public wears the mask, the chances of infection, if at all it occurs, the amount of the infection that comes down will be quite low. So the infection rates will be low. The third insight that we get from the data from particularly the US is most of the people who are having a severe outcome or deaths are the African Americans. Why? Because the the chances of obesity, particularly the visceral fat, is higher in African Americans. They are not purely covered by the health insurance, and most of the people work in the service sector. These people are nothing but, in our Indian setup, if you see, these people will be akin to the lower middle class of our population. So what to do, and as an individual level, we have to look at our waste and our comorbidities. So first try to protect ourselves, then we can protect our family, our neighbors, and the society. So for protecting, what we need to do is to decrease the inflammation. Most important thing is we need to make our waistlines thinner by eating sensibly and doing exercises. And whenever we go out, it's always good to wear a mask so that if at all we are getting infected, our infection level is low. And the last but not the least is we need to increase our microbiome, that is the bacteria that are present in our intestines. How can we increase our microbiome? By eating mainly plant-based food, which has to be natural. A variety of plant-based foods, which should be fresh from life, has to be taken rather than the packaged foods. By doing all these things, our microbiome will improve as well as our waistline will decrease, which will help to decrease the inappropriate immune system that may react. Now coming slightly, I won't be touching in detail what actually the society should be doing because Manjunath will be adding a lot. Later on in the discussion, I will be adding. The basic principle for lockdown is to give adequate time for any country or society so that if a health emergency occurs, we are well prepared. What is meant by well prepared? That the doctors and the nurses are well trained. They are provided with the personal protective equipments and adequate number of ICU beds and all other beds are provided. all protocols are placed in place, as well as if at all requirement of oxygen supply as well as ventilators are there, that has to be done. The lockdown period, the main basic aim of a lockdown is to prepare the country for all these things. So why our lockdown period was increased is slightly debatable, because we were going slightly high and we want to still flatten the curve. We might have listened by many people what is flattening of the curve. Flattening of the curve is we have to decrease the total number of cases, so that if the total number of cases decrease, the total number of severe cases will decrease. If the total number of severe cases will decrease, there won't be so much of strain on the healthcare system, and we'll be able to give a good quality healthcare for the people who will be requiring. But what is the end point? After some point, if we are going to again open it, again this virus may increase into the society and again spread it. So there are multiple mechanisms. One thing which I think will work is to divide the people in a very scientific way into different groups. Say, as the data says that the people who are younger, the mortality is very little, 0.2%. And for the people who are not having comorbidities, the mortality is quite low. So can we scientifically divide the whole population of the country rather than the zones of red zone, green zone, and an orange zone? Can we divide depending upon each and every person's risk? If a person is an younger, if he doesn't have comorbidities, if he is not obese, and if he doesn't live with the family or the elder people or comorbid people within the home, then this person's chances of getting the infection, if at all he gets the infection also, there are 99.8% that he will recover. So in a phased manner, I think that these people should be allowed to roam about by using the mask, so that if at all inoculum occurs, the inoculum will be smaller in quantity and they will be able to, once they become immune. So after a period of time, by doing the serology test, which is presently available in India, we can see what is the amount of immunity that these people have got. Once these people have got a decent level of immunity, then the second level of the population should be allowed to mingle in the society freely. What is the second level of population? The second level of population are the people who are more than the first level, maybe after 40 to 50 years, with maybe one comorbid illness, and these people should be taking care of that one. If at all some people become sick, our healthcare system will be able to give them adequate health support. Yeah, the disadvantage of this one is a few people may die, particularly the people who are having higher waist or obese people, or people who are elderly, or people with comorbid illnesses. But we have to balance this one. As I have seen these groups, the first group, second group, and the third group. Third group are the people who should not be exposed to this one. And slowly, as the first group and second group becomes immune, the third group, that are the people who are having the quite high risk, they will be protected by these people, because these people are immune. So these people won't be able to infect that one, these group of people. And as a policy makers, from the government or the policy makers people, they have to balance between the amount of deaths and the losses that will occur into the community or a society because of COVID-19 infection. As we have discussed, it is 3.4% versus the deaths and the loss that will occur in the migrant workers or the poorer population at the bottom of the pyramid because of malnutrition, which is going to hit, and the economic loss and the job losses, due to which much more deaths can occur. So a scientific rationale of coming out of this lockdown by taking the previous data, stratifying not as the zones, but stratifying the people depending upon their risk factors, and then allowing them to mingle in the population will help us to overcome this infection according to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khaliq.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a wonderful insights we get. Probably we'll discuss on this during question and answer session.
Yeah.
So this corona pandemic has showed us how world is interconnected. Within months or within days, it is everywhere. That kind of, so it tells that how we are connected. And I think it is almost all the countries are involved now, but only countries which may not be showing any positive case, maybe the ones which does not have a testing kit. That is what the WhatsApp joke is going on. If one country doesn't have means, right, you may not be having the testing kit, so no positive test. So, and we have seen multiple countries having a different curves. China had different, South Korea had different, Singapore had different curve, and whereas USA had different, and UK had different curves of corona pandemic. and within our India also. So Maharashtra had a separate thing, Tamil Nadu has a separate epidemiological curve, whereas Kerala is showing a very different curve despite having a maximum exposure. Many of the Kerala people come from Gulf countries. You know? So I would like to invite Dr. Manjunath again to tell us what are the models we have for tweaking this curve. What are the epidemiological intervention? How one intervention is better than other? Please, Dr. Manjunath, go ahead.
Thank you. Uh, Thank you, Ramchan. So this tweaking the curve or flattening of the curve, uh, it is essentially that is we are postponing the infection in each and everyone, because as I said in the first talk, because everyone is susceptible now. No one has immunity against this virus, so everyone will have one or other day we are going to get this infection. The only thing is we are buying the time to get the vaccine or to know the which is a better treatment for this. And so by lockdown in our country we have our intervention is lockdown or social distancing. So we'll go to the presentation. So the first this coronavirus corona COVID disease came in Hubei in China in December 2019 with unknown cases of pneumonia. So uh, then it was like SARS originated, even SARS also originated in China in 2002. So we can see the timeline how it has progressed. So in 12th December 2019, Wuhan reported the first case. Then the 31st, the WHO alerted about the cases of pneumonia of non-etiology. Wuhan scenario seafood market closed in 1st January. Then the 3rd January, India notified by the WHO that this type of virus or disease is there. So slowly, the WHO on 30th January, WHO declared it as a public health emergency of international concern. So it means it is a pandemic. So now we can see that. So it has reached almost all the countries. And when we see the cases or new and cumulative cases in India, we can see the lockdown was happened in 24th March. Yeah. So after that time, so we have been it was steadily it was progressing. So there was no other way, because the virus has to be stopped. So there was no other way to stop it other than social distancing. That is where the susceptible host shouldn't come in contact with the person who has the infection. The person who can get who can able to manifest the disease, he shouldn't come in contact with the person who has the virus. That can be done only with the lockdown. So that was happened on 24th March. So after that, you can see there is a slow, there was no sudden rise of the cases until unless from the cases, clusters of cases from Nijamuddin reported, that is on 1st April. So after that, there has been increase in the cases. So when we see the how the world is responded to this in most of the other countries, so in the France, there also the when we see this uh, the basic thing everyone has done is social distancing. They can nomenclature may be different, the naming may be different, but the basic thing what everyone done is social distancing. In France, they have abandoned the customary bice greeting, that is kissing on the way as we greet each other with namaste, they greet each other by touching each other's cheek. That is bice greeting. That was uh, abundant in Iran. Even they have cancelled the parliament itself because many parliamentarians were infected, and exports of the face mask are banned. In Germany, government has banned the export of the medical equipment. In United States, the government is preventing entry up to anyone who has visited China. So travel restrictions were implemented in each and every country. Switzerland, uh, here also they have banned the gatherings, and they have cancelled, like in India we cancelled the IPL, or else we should have been getting ready for to watch the IPL by this time. So there also Carnival, Basel Carnival was, and Geneva International Motor Show was cancelled. In Italy, they shut all the schools and universities for 10 days. Then they extended. In South Korea, the strict self-isolation was done, and also mass testing was done. South Korea, I want to impress here, they did mass testing. They tested almost 90% of their population. So the WHO stated you have to test, track, trace, and treat. So by that we can slow down the spread of the disease to the susceptible host. So in summary, if we go through the what the countries have done, so social distancing is the mantra here. So each and everyone they did social distancing, and till now we do not have any other. We are not got anything definitive. Treatment is not there, or any vaccine is also not available. So only thing is to see that we don't get this disease. So when we see the power of social distancing, so recently even it just came in the news that one person can infect 406 people. So if he just he wonders in the society can able to infect 406 people. So if he's been curbed on his movement, only 50% less exposure, so only 15 people. If he is 75% less exposure, he can infect only 2.5, whereas the 406, this is 2.5. So there is a large difference in uh, curbing the movement of the people. So it has helped. Maybe government was Indian government. It acted initially itself. It took the it is lockdown is a major decision where it can impact many people, business, economical, social life. Everything was thrown into. Many people had a marriage plan, many were planning for the IPL. So everything was shut. So it was a major decision. So social distancing was the only thing which was we can see the where we can see that the number of cases was very less because of the this lockdown. So because of a lockdown, there was social distancing was there. So WHO recommends and test, isolate, trace new cases and treat them. So this is what the South Korea did. It tested many people, and even Kerala also. It is the Kerala is the first state to institute. It has two COVID hospital in each and every district, and it has kiosks are there to test the COVID, to take the nasal swabs. So this, uh, so even in Kerala also the testing initially it is at the first level, but now gradually it has controlled the spread. So suppression is essential for buying the time to develop new treatment and manufacture of much needed equipment. It may be ventilators, and also it is not only the ventilators, we need the room for that also. So countries that adopted a test, track, and treat approach gained an early edge against the COVID-19, like South Korea. So India also responded with the restriction on the travel. So it has cancelled the air travel restriction and all types of travel, even within the country. And schools and colleges announced the holidays. So that time it was exams were going on. So it is very important for each and every student. That too, CBSE exams were also going 10th and 12th exams, board exams were there. It is not a, uh, it is a question of life of many lakhs of students. So even then, this tough decision was taken and increase the public awareness, out of the box approach like mobile ringtone. On this only there are so many jokes are there. The China is suffering from the virus, we are suffering from the ringtone, like that. So, but because of this, it has reached so many other, even every nook and corner of the country, it has reached the awareness. Social distancing, here we need to, social distancing is good, but only nomenclature would have been better, like physical distancing. So when it comes social distancing, it comes with a stigma attached to it. So if the same social distancing, if they would have nomenclature named it as a physical distancing, here physical distancing is for the disease, not the person. So that would have been good. So a lot of stigma is there because of this distancing. It was only viable option with the government, uh, and increase the capacity to test as much as possible. Meanwhile, it has imported the test kits, yeah, from the Germany, South Korea, and also increase the bed capacity to treat the COVID-19 patients. So now we can see that the district administration has been, they are doing a very great job in each and every district, like Bilwada, where they have instituted very strict adherence to the lockdown, because of which they have also, it has become a, it has become a model for all other districts. And also government of India has made, increased the bed capacity with turning the railway coaches into isolation rooms or treatment. So that is the wheel, the hospital on the wheels. So it can be transmitted from any part of the country to any part. So that was like innovation. So hospital on wheels. And so when we compare, so here we have to also see that the India is, it is much bigger than any other country together here. So recently we saw that India map, it is filled with the population equivalent to other countries. So Italy is six equivalent to Karnataka. 6 crores is what the population of Italy. So managing the India is like managing the many countries together. So it is not easy job. Even then, we are doing good. So when we compare the number of days to double, so it required, so we are taking more number, the with all the density population, with all the billion people, even then the we are, compared to other countries, we are doing good. So here you can see where in USA they are taking only 2 days to double from maybe 750 to 1500 or 6000 to 12,000 confirmed cases. So they are taking only 2 days. Here we are taking 6 days, 5 days, so to double the cases. So even though some people may say that we are testing very less, but even then, whatever we are testing, in that also there are so many negatives are also coming up. So it is not that even though the testing may be less, but the with whatever we have tested, in that also it is less. It is not that the number of positivity is very high. And other countries we can see that India is at the bottom. Is the curve is plateau. It is not like UK. US is not there. One of the US and Iran graphs are not there. If they would have been there, even there also with like Burj Khalifa, there would have been big buildings would have been there. America. So they are not there. India is at the bottom. Yeah. So curve is flattened. So whatever India has done, whatever it has done, it is non-pharmacological interventions without the, because anyhow we do not have a evidence-based proper treatment is not there. So whatever it can do without pharmacological intervention, it has done, and we could able to flatten the curve till now. So in hindsight, and also we can see what we have not done. It is also important to introspect us. So in hindsight, it is easy to point out, but it is not done that days. But even then, we have to introspect ourselves. So universal mask advocacy was not there. So if they have done this universal mask advocacy at the beginning itself, in the beginning it was told if it is only for the patient or only for the healthcare workers. So universal mass advocacy would have been a wonderful thing, which would have been, they could have got, as Dr. Abdul Khaliq said, with using the mask, they would have got a lesser amount of the viral load into them. And even in whatever the death we are seeing, the death rate would have been still less. And strict quarantine of the international travelers, so it was not done. So like famous singer Kanishka Kapoor is there. You can see where she has infected so many people. So strict quarantine of the international travels would have been the best thing. Test, track, treat, WHO recommendation could not be followed. So we are billion people country. We do not have that much resource even. So, but we have did the testing in the high risk people, the people who shown the signs and symptoms. In them only it has been done. So if they have positive, if they had a virus, they would have shown. Even in the high risk itself, the positivity rate is very less. And optimal personal protective equipment for the frontline workers we are lacking. And with the lockdown, migrant population is being stranded. So yesterday and day before yesterday, when the lockdown was continued, so there were a protest in the Bandra in Mumbai for the against the lockdown by the migrant population. So we have to take care of the migrant population. But it's been, they are taking care, district administration in each district, they are taking care of the most of the migrant population. And daily wage workers are in dire state. The people who has to earn their money today and they have to spend on the same day. For such a people, for such a family, so this lockdown is a very difficult one. So, but with the participation of everyone, with philanthropists, with local administration, and all them, we can take the uh, responsibility of such a person, such a family, and we can help them out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manjunath. So with this, we come to the question and answer sessions. So I have quite a few questions here. So the first question we would like to take is how it is different from swine flu. Any one of you?
Swine flu is also, that is aerosol was there in that. Here it is the droplet. So, the pathogen, the virus for the swine flu, it transmitted through the aerosol. Means it was able to transmit in the air. Here it is a droplet. Means the size is bigger. It doesn't spread more than 1 meter. That is That is why we are asking the people to maintain the physical distance of the 1 meter. So within 1 meter, it will be here. So when you stand 1 meter distance, it won't, when I am talking, without my knowledge, the virus will be, if I have a virus, it will be going outside whenever I talk, whenever I breathe out. So that time. So, but in COVID-19, it will be within 1 meter, but in case of swine flu, it is more than 1 meter. Even if I go out of the room also, swine flu will be there in the air. Whoever comes in, he will get that, but not with the COVID.
Yeah. Maybe one more thing is swine flu has a more virulence compared to COVID-19. It has a mortality of around 10%, whereas if you take an average of COVID-19 is around 3%. No?
So COVID, even whatever we are saying, the mortality rate of 3%, it may be even less, because we are saying this 3% based on the number of tests we have done in India. Actually, whatever the test we have done is itself is very less. And the asymptomatic carrier who have not been tested, but who have the virus, if you consider them also in the denominator, the numerator is the number of people who have died. In the denominator is the people who have got the virus, who have been infected. So here we are in the denominator for calculation is the only who are positive with the PCR test are there. But there are so many people to whom we are not at all done the PCR test itself.
Okay.
So mortality rate may be still less.
Less, okay. And in the same thing, many of the deaths which could be have been due to COVID-19 is not actually not done. Anybody has died of pneumonia, we don't do when they're diseased. You know? So we might be missing out the deaths also. The same argument. You know. So I now invite Dr. Yeah.
But now the testing guidelines have been changed. Now they are including each and every type of pneumonia. Any type of...
No, if the patient in periphery die of some pneumonia or some other reason, we are not going to test him. No? So it miss if it is due to COVID-19.
Yeah. Before the death, if he comes to the hospital, there he will be checked.
Yeah. Now allow to ask a question by voice to Dinesh Jajaria. Please ask, sir. I'm allowing you to talk. You can unmute your... please ask the question, sir.
Yes, sir. I read a paper in which they told that a small droplet can also transmit up to 5 to 6 meters. Yeah, is it true?
No.
Means,
the droplet, the spread, as I said, whenever there is interventions or procedures are there, when there is a creation of aerosol is there, that time they can travel more. Like intubation, doing intubation of the patient, or when they are put on the ventilators. So that time, that time only it become aerosol and it can spread for a more distance.
Okay.
The second thing, Mr. Dinesh, is that sometimes smaller droplets can go much farther, particularly when a patient coughs as well as sneezes, because that is coming with some force from inside the patient towards outside. So that's the reason when a universal wearing of a mask, whether it may be made up of even a simple cloth mask, is worn by all the people while going out. If at all I come across a patient who is having a virus in him and he gets a sneeze reflex or a cough reflex and he coughs out, he may turn or he may keep his hand or he may sneeze in his elbow, but still whatever the mask, cloth mask or a simple surgical mask is present, a cloth mask is what is advocated by the government. What it does is it will stop all the major droplets and the amount of the virus that is coming out. So it instead of it coming and falling in front for a longer duration, what it does is it cuts down more than 90 to 90% of the droplets that are going to come out of any patient, and very few droplets will be coming and won't be going to that far as it would have gone without any mask.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask Dr. Ishwar Rao Marulappa to ask the question, sir. You can unmute and ask. Dr. Ishwar Rao Marulappa, you can unmute your...
Okay.
Yes, sir. Ask. You're audible. Hello. Dr. Ishwar? The another question is what is the role of BCG? Nowadays, most of the people are telling because of BCG, we have kind of a herd immunity against the COVID-19. What's your,
herd immunity, it is without herd immunity here, it requires like for example, for smallpox and it was only 80%, but here for this they are telling it needs to be infect each and everyone. 100% infection is required to generate the herd immunity here. Maybe the strain which is circulating in India may be different. The one which is there in Italy and America may be the different. That may be the reason we have the lesser mortality here.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. Because in National Institute of Virology in Pune has identified that Indian strain is different compared to the what they have in Italy. And only the scare is Nepal has the same strain as Italy. If anybody comes through filters through Nepal, then we'll have the
Okay.
Italy strain also. That's the
Okay.
problem. And as you told, in any epidemiology or any pandemic or epidemic, the triad is very important. One is
Agent
host, another is virality and infectability of the agent, that is a virus, and the
and the
environment.
environment.
So, does the environment has any role to play?
So
Indian environment.
uh, maybe because the wonderful here it is the we may not be having the proper vaccine to combat with the virus, but we have the very simple thing like a soap here. With a simple soap which can be there in each and everybody, it can kill the virus. When you wash your hands for 20 seconds, simple 20 seconds or 20 to 30 seconds is enough to kill this virus. That may be that even that awareness being there, wherever you go there washing is there. That may be also the reason. So people are following that. And about the evidence regarding as far as possible, environment, being a tropical country here, the environmental temperature reaches like here in Karnataka, like Ballari, Gulbarga, hotter regions in Karnataka, they may reach up to 40 degree. So definitely uh, uh, it may be the reason, but now we are getting the showers here in Hubbali also.
Okay. Khaliq, you want to add something?
Yeah, coming to the BCG point of view that you asked, by taking the BCG, what happens is the type of the immunity that BCG will provide is what is called as an innate immunity. If you go into
Innate
the
or
plateau of
adaptive?
more of innate immunity,
Innate immunity, okay.
yeah, later on adaptive, but more of innate immunity, right? So what, as I went into the pathophysiology, as I showed a few slides, because there are also some general public rather than only the doctors, what is saying is initially whenever the macrophages that are present within the alveoli, right, they take up the antigen, and then the T cells that are present in the capillaries are being fed with that one. So what happens is initially there will be a very good positive T cell response against this one. But as the cytokine storm comes in and macrophage activated syndrome comes in, the T cells will start depleting. So one of the features that I have seen is that there is a lymphopenia, leukopenia are there, and increased ferritin as well as increased in LDH, all as well as increase in the AST and ALT. These are all considered to be bad prognostic markers when we see from the lab point of view. So what actually, how the BCG may be protective is that by taking the BCG, our T cells will be quite trained, as well as our innate immunity of the macrophages, as well as the response, how our T cells will be acting will be better. So that is the reason why hypothetically BCG is supposed to act good. And by this hypothesis, even in Australia, they have started recommending taking of a shot of a BCG to their healthcare professionals. But still, consolidated data that it is going to protect against the COVID virus hasn't yet come. But from a pathophysiology point of view, it may have some added advantage. Coming to your second question about the environment, I don't think so. Okay, environment is going to play a significant role, at least in India, though the climate is becoming hot. Some amount of virus infection because of the fomites, because of the touching of the surfaces, etc., and outside may be decreased by the virus, by the environment. But most of the indoors, the temperature won't be that high, and the main source of the infection is particularly the people or the persons or the cases who are moving around. So it may have some effect, but I don't think that because we are a tropical country, it is going to help us a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Now I invite some Redmi. You can ask the question, please.
Yes.
What name? Login name. Please go ahead.
Actually, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask.
Are you audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Actually, sir, I wanted to ask you that is there government having any provision regarding the risk controlling or a risk minimizing aspect, or a people who have the uh, ideas which can be minimize the risk of COVID-19? I mean, government has any provision for these people, or how can these people reach the authorized bodies to express their ideas regarding minimizing the risk of COVID-19?
Yeah, you can go into the Twitter account of Ministry of Health and put in whatever the ideas or the suggestions you have. And you can also tag in the PMO, that is Prime Minister Office, or your particular state health minister in the Twitter. Most of the Twitter accounts of these people are active. They will be looking into the solutions which are given by the public. The experts will be looking into them, and if they are really worthy, they'll be trying to implement those things.
And also you can reach it to your district authority, DC.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. There are a few more questions, but I see.
Yeah. We'll try to do fast. Ishwar, you can ask your question, please. Dr. Ishwar?
Sir.
Yeah, ask, please. Dr. Ishwar?
Sir, now one patient, all the quarantine patients are there now in some quarantine centers. If someone is going to be positive in that quarantine center, that infection can be carried in the quarantine other patients.
No, in quarantine, before testing, they will be given separate rooms. Only once they are the isolation rooms, whatever the isolation rooms are there, even there, if the building or if the capacity is there, they will give a single room. If not, all the confirmed cases will be in a same room, in a big hall, not a room, in a big hall, in a ward, in a hospital. This the non-confirmed cases, they will be given separate room.
Okay, sir. And now see that now that quarantine positive patient will be there now. That all the room and that bed sheet, that bed, everything is be sanitized correctly.
Yeah.
It is followed by any officers, doctors correctly. It has to be strictly followed. Then only we can protect all
definitely
unpositive patients.
Definitely, it is been done that way only. After that patient is shifted to the ward, isolation ward, his belongings, whatever is there, it will be washed with sodium hypochlorite solution, and the surfaces will also be sanitized with sodium hypochlorite solution, and then only it will be given to the next person.
Sir, one thing. Now those are quarantine na. For that, as a preventive prophylactic remedy, we can't give hydroxychloroquine, sir, for them. For them.
No.
Yes or no? As we are taking as a medical persons, we are taking HCQ for prophylactic person. Those who are quarantine, for them we can give or not. Those are primary contacts.
Even here, but here in Hubbali, as a healthcare personnel, we are not taking it still.
Still, that only the advisory has been advised. Advised now. Still, it is not there, but advisory has advised.
But it is not. It is only advisory. It may, the evidence is not there. Clear-cut evidence is not there.
Okay, sir.
Because 80%, 80% of the is mild only.
Okay, sir.
Dr. Ishwar, recent paper which came in NEJM, which was randomized, has shown that this hydroxychloroquine may not actually be effective when they have seen it, right? So initially ICMR has given us as a prophylactic thing, but we need to see from a country point of view or from a policy maker's point of view, because as we know, quarantining the patients will be huge number, even though if it at that point of time when diplomacy has to be played, when many countries are asking for the help, and it is not so effective drug, and by giving some time, we will be able to manufacture so many of the drugs. Then at a greater good of the country, the decision was to give only to the as a prophylaxis to the healthcare professionals. Yes, if there was a definite evidence that yeah, hydroxychloroquine will prevent it, then as you suggested, that's a very good suggestion that all the people who were in the quarantine should be given that one, hydroxychloroquine. But because
primary context, at least primary context.
Primary context. But because there is no strong evidence, that's why even many of the healthcare professionals haven't taken it.
But action as virus is acting just like as a what the pathophysiology is of malarial site. The same pathophysiology is followed by the virus. So we can go through that all things with the topmost virologist of our India or some good doctors who are fully knowing this pathophysiology of this virus. Yes or no, sir?
Yeah. Yes, but malarial pathophysiology is completely different from how actually
somewhat. It is acting on ferritin of the iron.
I don't think so. Anywhere pathophysiology is direct of malaria as well as this coronavirus. Here, the receptors are different. These are ACE2 receptors are there.
ACE2 receptors.
Whereas in the malaria, it is completely different. They are on the red blood cells. The receptors are there. How actually this hydroxychloroquine acts, there are multiple things, but intracellularly, it is going to change the pH of the cells, by which the viral replication is going to be decreased by this hydroxychloroquine. So as effective evidence is not there, so that may be the reason why it is not being pushed so hard.
As I read in some literatures that it will bind with the ferritin of hemoglobin, and because of that hemoglobin is not able to transfer the oxygen to cell to cell. So the oxygen depletion will be there in the body.
Yeah,
due to that hypoxia of the body will be there, and there is a huge need of the oxygen. And sometimes there will be no need of a ventilator will also be not useful. They are telling in some literatures.
Yeah, that was one of the posts that was circulating hugely within the WhatsApp groups also.
But no WhatsApp, sir. It's literature only. News literature I studied, sir. That only, not WhatsApp, sir.
But in whatever the normal sources wherein the COVID information is seen, particularly in the PubMed Central or this one in the pathogenesis and etc., there is no significant role wherein this virus going and binding with ferritin directly. I couldn't find at least.
Okay. Now I invite Dr. Mahesh Kumar to ask the question, sir. Please ask the question. Dr. Mahesh. Dr. Mahesh? Dr. Mahesh,
hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Regarding one of the panelists was regarding herd immunity.
So it is not very clear.
Maybe sir is asking about the herd immunity.
That slow phase, even.
Dr. Mahesh, can you unmute again?
Sir can write in chat box.
Yeah, Dr. Mahesh, you can ask now.
Yeah.
No, sir, some audio issue.
One of the panelists was explaining regarding the herd immunity. That is, hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you put your question in the chat box, please? We can't hear you, sir.
Hello, now can you hear me?
Yes, sir, now you can hear me.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, one of the panelists was explaining regarding the herd immunity.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Even I am also of the same opinion. But what is the immunological basis regarding this? Do you have any evidence to this?
Against or for, sir?
Whatever. Even I'm ready to take it also, because sometimes it may backfire also. Like what has happened in influenza, the immunocompromised people mortality was more in influenza rather than at the extremes of age. In 1980, if you go back to the history, The immunochallenged people are had more, that is active age people died more than the extremes of age in 1918, that is influenza.
Okay, go ahead. One of you can answer this. Yeah.
No, sir is only answer. Sir is only telling about that. He is giving his opinion. Sir is giving the opinion.
So one thing is, I would say, okay, if not working on herd immunity, or what is the end point of this lockdown? See, just a few flights coming to India in the month of January, right? And within 2 months, the whole of the country is in lockdown. So once the lockdown opens, right, the transfer between one state to other state, one district to other district can't be stopped for the proper functioning of the country. And in the same way, for the proper functioning of the country, even the flights and the goods has to come from one country to other country. That has to be there for the proper economy or for proper working of any country. So what actually this lockdown, there are two primary aims of the lockdown. One thing, as we discussed, it will give the government as well as the policymakers some time so that they build up the healthcare infrastructure so that whatever the cases will come, they will be able to tackle. The second important aspect of the lockdown is, if in this case any effective medical management is being done, it can be passed on to the citizens of the country. So for effective treatment, the vaccine is out of the order, because for the vaccine to be formed and coming to the normal public, it will take at least 12 to 18 months of time. So within this year, coming of the vaccine is almost impossible. The only treatment option that is present to us are any effective treatment. Of all the treatments that are being tried, right from immunoglobulins to convalescent plasma, remdesivir to hydroxychloroquine, there is some evidence that remdesivir may be useful, but the trials has to come. They have to go in the mass production and have to come into the market. So from a policymaker's point of view, or from the government point of view, it has to balance and see what will be the goodness for each and every individual that is present in the country. One thing is, can we allow some exposure for the public who are having the least risk of the death or severity, through which slowly the immunity within the community and the society will increase, versus locking the whole country till an effective medication comes into the country. The side effects of keeping the lockdown for a longer duration, as we are seeing the bottom of the pyramid, the poor public will be dying more because of the malnutrition, lack of jobs, and multiple other communicable diseases. So a balance has to be taken. It's a personal opinion of each and every one of us. My personal opinion is lockdown is definitely not an eternal answer for this situation, unless and until an effective treatment can be easily made possible for each and every citizen. What is the second best option is a graded exposure of the public, particularly from the by taking into the data that is present, by exposing the people who are having least risk of having the severe outcome, and then gradedly we can come to the upper part of the population who are having the risk. This is my personal opinion, sir, because, depending upon whatever the data is present. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Khaliq. So there are a few one-line questions, so I require one-word answer.
Yes.
Like a rapid fire round, like. Is it verified that it is originated from bat?
Not 100%, only 92% is with the bat. There is also a theory that there is a lab called P4 lab in Wuhan. Might be the virus might have.
But the virus sequences are matching with that.
That is 92% matching with the bat virus, not 100%.
Priya asked that do we have sufficient kits to check COVID-19?
India, no country will have sufficient kits, particularly India with so much of population. If we want to check the whole of the population, we won't have the sufficient kit. But before saying sufficient kit, so what is sufficiency has to be defined. For us, the sufficiency is to look for the people with the high risk of having COVID-19, testing them as well as their primary contacts. According to that one, we are matching to our sufficiency.
Now we are coming up with antibody tests also.
Kerala started almost a month back, I feel. We are a bit slow in starting in Karnataka. So next question is, can we get the vaccine for COVID-19? How long it will take? And
Yes.
since there is two types of virus strain now, so does it affect the vaccine now?
No, it
No,
will take at least.
we
Yeah,
have to
Manjunath.
take the both types also. The vaccine should be specific to the strain.
Huh.
So it
So
will, as Dr. Khaliq said, it will take 12 months at least.
Are masks are really effective to stop spreading from patient or to the receiver?
Yes, to a significant level.
Significant. Is there any provision done by the government for the people who have little or big ideas regarding minimizing the risk of COVID-19?
That we
They want to
discussed.
contribute. Where?
Yeah. In Twitter, Twitter is the best platform to go.
Okay.
Or
Second
directly
lockdown.
mail.
Okay. Second lockdown, there is so much relaxation in lockdown. It will not interrupt in controlling the spread of the disease. Is there any relaxation in second phase of
No,
lockdown?
no.
The same like this.
Actually, there is more strictness here in second lockdown.
Okay.
More strict.
Well, what about
Maybe
the
it depends on the zone. If it is
zone?
red zone or alert zone, so maybe
Okay.
because of that
It was
the
not there in the
relaxation.
first lockdown, initially second lockdown only this concept of green, red and yellow had come.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about the asymptomatic COVID-19? Is this true?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely asymptomatic cases are there.
Okay. So now rapid round is over. So one person is asking, in the view of variable amount of testing, I am rather looking at the deaths to assess the progress of the disease in India. Is this rational?
Yes,
That's the
definitely,
question.
definitely. That's what we are also here discussing. The even if there is, even though we have a less number of testing is there, death rate would have been a better indicator for the disease spread, mortality. Any type, any death with associated with respiratory symptoms. If you take that as a COVID death, even then also we have very number of less number of deaths are there in India. It means actually there is a more mild cases are there in India. That is a good question because that we have discussed here. The number of deaths are itself is very less because of the respiratory symptoms.
Okay.
And
So this
also we are taking the all the high risk. Whoever comes with the respiratory symptoms, we are taking the swab.
okay. So there's another question. Can I check at home by myself the symptoms, or should I go to the doctor? When should I see the doctors? What is the life on the various objects like cloth, vegetable, paper, plastics? So which one to believe? Which one? Because lot of this is a from a non-medical fraternity maybe. They're asking. This is WhatsApp is a viral actually. This spreads like this and all. And in Karnataka also in Mysore, one package came from China for
China,
pharmaceutical
Nanjangud.
Nanjangud, and many of them become positive. So we say in the cardboard it stays only for 48 hours or paper maximum. But China to Mysore, it takes many days. Still, many of the receivers got
Maybe
infected with COVID-19.
maybe the cold storage.
Cold storage might have increased. That's the
Maybe
thing.
that was maybe the cold storage might have been there, so
Yeah.
that would have aided its survivability.
Dr. Kali, can you tell me these worries? They're worried now. Which grocery item they should touch or not? All those things. Can you summarize in brief
Yeah.
when they should be worried?
See. There are multiple ways of or denaturing the virus, because virus is something which doesn't actually have the life. So what we call it as a denaturing of the virus, of which for us the best thing is the sunlight, right? So even for the masks that the doctors or the healthcare professionals use it to protect, which is called as a N95 mask also, because there is a shortage of this one, the government has said, okay, we can reuse it. How we can reuse it by keeping it by the side or preferably within the sunlight for about 4 days. From the 5th day onwards, we can easily reuse it. So anything keeping aside for 4 or 5 days will naturally kill the virus in most of the things. Other than there is some evidence that in the newspapers, in the currency notes, as well as in the cardboards, it may live for slightly longer. So practically, see, when once I am in the lockdown, what are the things that I changed? Whatever the newspapers I used to get in my home, I have asked him to stop, and I am looking the news in the digital format. The second morning thing that I commonly get is the milk, the packets of the milk that come to my home. What I'm doing is all the packets of the milk that I get, I'm taking it and keeping it in a bucket of a detergent water and washing them adequately, and then taking the packets out, cutting it, and taking the milk in an utensil. The third thing that we commonly get from outsides are the groceries, vegetables, and the fruits. Most of the vegetables and the fruits that I get from the outside, again, the same principle that I do, take a bucket of water, add some detergent, put in all the fruits and vegetables, and wash them adequately. As Manjunath has shown, that good rubbing of the things have to be done. Take it out and rinse it in a normal water, and then you can keep it within the refrigerator also. There are a few things, particularly the onions is one of the vegetable which I generally don't wash it. What I do it, I bring it and I keep it aside, and I generally don't use it for about 10 days. After 10 days, we start using the vegetables like the onions, because we can't wash them directly. The other packets that we get, either the maybe the oil or whatever comes in the packets or the polythenes, etc. Once we get it out, the best way of denaturing the virus is just taking the sanitizers which we use at the home, the alcohol-based 60% of the sanitizers, just spray a bit on those things and rub it, and then you can use for this one. So these are a few things. Other than that one, the two or three major things that we need to do on a daily basis. First thing is the knobs of the door handles, particularly the main gate of the home, has to be regularly cleaned by using some of the other sanitizer. We should keep the habit of not bringing in the shoes or the footwear inside the home. It's better we keep it out of the home and then enter the home. And the first thing that we have to do once we come into the home is to go to the sink and have a very good wash of the hands. And if we are coming from the place, particularly in the hospitals of the doctors, wherein we are in touch with the suspected or confirmed positive cases, it's better we take a shower if facility is present in the hospital. Otherwise, after coming to the home, go into the bathroom, remove all those clothes, throw it into the your washing machine, and then take a good shower, come out, and only then mingle with the family. These are a few practical points that at least I am doing personally. One thing that I forgot is about the currency. As we discussed previously also, most of the transactions has to be in the digital format. If at all we are using the currency, it's better if we buy something, as Raghu was saying the other day, you take whatever the items equal to the money that you are giving. If you're giving 200 rupees, take the items equal to that one. If at all some change you are taking it, keep it separately, bring it and keep it in the home, and don't touch that one for about 10 days. After 10 days, if all the virus is there, that will become denaturalized. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Khaliq. This last question I will show you. Can you see this slide?
Started screen sharing.
Oh, just a minute. Just a minute. So basically, my question is this one. So okay, no. Again, something else is picked up.
Yeah. I saw two dogs putting the.
Yeah. See, initially we are telling the dogs and pets will not carry the virus. There's no man-to-animal transmission. But one tiger in American Zoo and one cat in Hong Kong showed that man-to-animal transmission is there. And in entire epidemiological intervention, we are not thinking in those lines. No steps or directions have been instructed for these things.
There should be awareness about proper disposal of the waste. So only, especially in hospitals, the yellow color bucket should be placed at strategic points, and where only the face mask, there should be face mask can be disposed there.
Many of the non-medical or non-healthcare people also use, where they don't have access to yellow color bin.
No, at least they, at least in the hospitals where they come regularly, the people who are like lay persons, they can be, they can burn it, or they can wash it, and later they can dispose. If they put it in a detergent as they wash other clothes, even if they wash it for 10 minutes or let them soak it in a soap water, then they can dispose it. Because
Okay.
once it is soaked in a soap water,
Okay.
so
Okay. Yeah.
it is it is very easy. Later they can dispose it,
So
because
any
after that they can't reuse it. Even
okay.
if they do it to sun-dry, the efficiency will not be that. They have to understand.
Okay. Khalik, any pets? Now we know that they can be get infected.
Yeah, I mean, social distancing even with pets is quite difficult because if we have the cats or the dogs within the home, the first thing that they do once we come back to the home is they come and jump on us. I don't know, has to see how to protect our pets from us because I don't think that the pets will be bringing the disease and giving to us. It will be the other way around that we will be giving the diseases to the pets. Well, as there is no significant data, because in China also there is no, I mean, China or other countries, it hasn't shown that they may be there, but they are getting infected, dying, etc. is not there. So I don't think so. Okay, that will be a major concern that the loss of the pet's life will be there. But yeah, whether it can come from the pets is still debatable. We don't know. We have to wait and see till the data emerges.
Okay, thank you. With this, I will rather start concluding. I thank all the attendees and speakers. And what we could understand is what is known as new terms like cocooning or reverse quarantine, what Dr. Khaliq was telling and Dr. Manjunath was telling. And this is a quote from PM of Israel, Netanyahu. Hide your grandpa and grandmother.
Yes.
Whoever is at risk should be hidden and should not be exposed compared to the patient, not just a old age with comorbidities as well. If you take care, in addition to this red, yellow, green zone, individually at every home, anybody's comorbidity and old age, keep them as if they are at risk of getting coronavirus infection or they have coronavirus infection, so that to maintain distance within the family members also. With this, I thanks once again all of you. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.